What's going on YouTube? It's the Filthy Casual, back with another Diablo 3 video. Today's going to be a discussional based one. We're going to have a little chat about season themes. And in the background there is some Leapquake gameplay. This is my seasonal character on hardcore. Leapquake is super fun and super strong this season, so if you're playing Barbarian, definitely check it out. Now this is supposed to be a discussion video, so please jump in with your comments down below. But I'm just going to have a little bit of a chat about the theme for this season and then move on to maybe floating some ideas that I'd like to see implemented for future seasons. Now for this season, the RORG buff has actually changed the game a bit more than I'd anticipated. Things like charge bar, being able to use focus and restraint, and there's also a Jade Witch Doctor build that I saw today that looks quite interesting, that's only possible with the RORG. And I think that's where it's really shone, is that there is now a bit more diversity and a bit of flexibility, in particular for T13. Now every build does benefit from this because there are ways of working in either convention of elements or mage fist gloves or frostburn gloves or some other utility item for every build. And one thing that it has highlighted is that whilst I do really like the set bonuses and the 6-piece set system, it does show that by just opening up that one extra slot and by giving players a free RORG, the diversity in the game has increased, and I think that's really important for a game like Diablo because it's been out for so long, because everybody's played all these builds so many countless times. I think that any way that you can increase the number of builds that are viable in the game, I think is definitely a good thing. So really I kind of hope they keep this moving forwards, just implement it generally in the game. Now I haven't really played much Path of Exile, but my understanding is that's how that works. So they try out new concepts in like seasons or ladders, and then they'll implement them into the main game if they're popular. Now I would give this an absolutely massive thumbs up to keep the RORG buff in permanently, because it does open up options. So I don't know how you guys would feel about that. Is this a change that you'd like to see kept and transported into the main game and used for all future seasons, or is it something that you've had a little bit of fun with and you're happy to discard it now and get onto something new? Now looking at the past seasons, we had double goblins to start off with. Personally I thought that was kind of fun for about 20 minutes, and then after that it was, oh great, there's another double goblin. Again, it's a change that I probably would just implement in the game. I think everybody's seen goblins now, there are so many of them. And the effect is kind of almost like numb to them now. It's not a point of interest finding one. So doubling them, I suppose, at least does give you extra chance for pets, so that's something I would have kept as well. And then the last season, double bounty mats, that was just awful. I couldn't be bothered with that. I hate bounties offering me double the rewards. It just forced me to play actually non-seasonal, because I just thought, well, I may as well work on some Legacy of Nightmare builds outside the season, particularly once we got the patch notes. And I thought that was probably the worst. Although, to be fair, double goblins is pretty rubbish when you look at it compared to the RORG buff. Now obviously we had double goblins, we had double bounties. I think if Blizzard are going to be really lazy, then I think the next choice for season will probably be a convention season, so everyone will get a free convention of elements. And I think that would potentially be quite interesting. For leveling, I think it would just encourage people to pick the same elemental skill for all their skills and essentially get a 200% damage buff, so you'd be leveling super quick, so that could be quite fun. Necro would benefit massively from this, and also Legacy of Nightmares would benefit incredibly. I think you will find towards the end of the season that LOM will take a lot of the top spots. If you dumped a convention on top, then that's really going to give it some juice, because LON, quite a lot of the times, because you only got that one jewellery slot left for the ring, the convention sometimes makes it in there, but other builds like Necro, for instance, you're going to be taking the Crispins because it just does more damage. So if you then stuck a convention on top, it's going to be pretty tasty. They could also expand it to other items. You could maybe get an endless walk set, so a Traveler's Pledge and Compass Rose, so 50% DR when moving and 100% damage when standing still. That probably wouldn't shake up speed builds, but it would certainly make pushing a lot easier. And if you are currently using that, then those builds that use those two items will get a hell of a lot of juice, because you'll be able to pick a brand new amulet and also another ring slot, so that would be pretty cool. Or another item maybe is Season of Illusion, so the illusory boots, and they basically allow you to move through enemies unhindered. Again, I think that could be quite fun, because playing LON, which I have done quite a bit off season, using illusory boots is actually really cool. Makes the game an awful lot less frustrating when you get stuck. They could do a season around Legacy of Nightmares, because it is interesting. I do like the concept, but for filthy casual players like me, it's quite hard to get an LON build up and running in a season. You do have to sink quite a lot of time in it. Double bounty mats would obviously make it easier, but I think maybe giving people that extra bit of incentive to go for it in one particular season, maybe where they made it so that you only needed 10 ancient items to activate the bonus for the full 13, so it gave some kind of reduction. Or maybe if they gave it a little bit more juice or a bit more damage reduction, so that you didn't have to get all 13 pieces to be viable. But obviously then that would mean that players who played a lot would get extra bonuses. But it's an interesting concept. I'd like to see them maybe have a season where they play around with primals, maybe increase the drop rate. They are pretty rare. I understand why they're rare, and I think it is probably a good thing that they're rare, but for me they're just that bit too hard to find, particularly when for all intents and purposes 9 out of 10 of them are absolutely useless, and that's probably going to be another video for another day. But maybe if they increase the drop rate by doubling it, or maybe even going by a factor of 5, I think that could be quite cool. You'd be able to have a lot more primals in the season, and that would be interesting. Another one that I really like the thought of is a season of the Sage, so where everybody gets the Sage set for free. That would be really cool for T13. Everyone would get lots of DBs, and it would give everybody a nice kick in the right direction to get their final builds up and running. You'd have a nice interesting speed meta where you're trying to find the quickest T13 build period. I suppose probably everyone would just end up playing multi-shot repeatedly, but again, it would mean that you literally could play anything T13. You wouldn't have to do a Sage specific build. It would also help out Necro tremendously, because as I made in the previous video, Necro just doesn't have any DB builds, so I've made one, so I'll put that in the cards. But I think that would that'd be quite nice for Necros, definitely. Season of the Nemesis is another one that I think is quite interesting. If you've got Nemesis braces, for instance, then you'd be able to spawn elites and champ packs off shrines and pylons. Might not be so crazy hot for hardcore, because you're not always going to want to proc enemies off pylons. You might find you proc cheat death, because some of them spawn with fast attacking affixes that crush you, particularly at higher levels. But again, it's an interesting concept. I think you could even maybe muck around with some of the item affixes. So a season of the Generator where the depth diggers went from say 100% increased damage to 200%, although I'm not sure whether that would give any issues for non-seasonal play. How I suppose it could just be a seasonal buff where depth diggers did double damage rather than altering the affix specifically on the item, and that way you wouldn't ruin non-season as well. I think one that I'd really like to see, and this is a change that I really wish they'd implement into the game, is to remove the rather stupid movement speed cap. So I'd make it so that you could get 25% through your Paragon, and then anything that was added on your gear you'd be able to add it, so you wouldn't be capped at 25%. The Season of Speed, I think that would be quite cool, and again I would integrate that into the game probably, but that would make rolling movement speed on your items actually much more viable, much more important. It could be a season where they messed around with the Hadrig's gifts, so maybe they could all be ancient. You could get a fully ancient set. Maybe you could get one of the items as a primal or something like that. The thought process behind that is it would make the selections of the set a lot more important. I think that would be kind of cool. I can see a downside, which is that it would mean that you're spending less time looking for things, and generally the more that the game gives you, I think the less rewarding this season actually is, because part of the fun of the game is finding stuff. But I think it could be quite cool to maybe mix up the Hadrigs in some way. You could do seasons where Thorns was increased. You could do seasons where pet damage is increased. They potentially both would be quite interesting. One that I think would be very, very interesting would be to increase the number of legendary gems you can use, so allow them to either be socketed into your helm or your weapon, maybe both, so you get either 4 or 5 legendary gems in one season. But obviously it's a trade-off, you have to give something up for it. And one that I would absolutely love to see, but I can't see it happening because I think it would probably require too much coding, would be for them to do something with the cube. So either allow maybe an extra cube power that you pick, so you can either have double weapon, double armor, or double jewelry, or maybe some kind of combination where you had to give up the other 2 to get double for one slot. So if you wanted to take 2 from the weapon category, you could do, but you gave up your other 2 items to do it. You know, and same if you wanted 2 jewelry slots, you could have that, but you wouldn't get a weapon and you wouldn't get an armor. And basically these types of things, again, you're just onto diversity. You're trying to make as many combinations as possible that will give you the greatest number of builds. You know, the items are all in the game, and really the way to increase the number of builds is to increase the number of ways that they can be mixed together. So I think that could be quite good fun. And the last and final idea that I had was maybe an elemental season, so where elemental rolls on jewelry or braces or whatever is effectively doubled. So again, you know, give some extra juice to use some extra specific builds. So they're pretty much some of the ideas that I had. You know, there's definitely some scope to come up with some really cool season themes. You know, do you like any of these ideas? Are they ones that you'd like to see in the game? You know, do you have any ideas of your own? As I said at the start, I'd love this to be a discussion video. If you could get involved and drop a comment and let me know where you think the game is going, where would you like to see it in season 17? I think that would be pretty cool. So that's me rambled for about 10-11 minutes. I'll catch you in the next video. Good luck in Sanctuary, and I'll see you soon. Peace.